I'm out here working on the Land Cruiser again this cold morning in November. I've been gone for a little while, so just now getting back into working on the vehicle. Just recently there was a local group going out to a club or a property ride, and I wanted to go, but I remembered since I did my body lift I had no low range, so I wanted to hurry up and get that knocked out. I was going to make a video, but happened a little too quickly. I had to get out here and get it done. Unfortunately, I had an issue with what I did, and I'll show you what I did. By the way, I also had a window that was stuck. The driver's side window just stopped working on me. I had rebuilt the switch multiple times, went in there and cleaned contacts and all that, and kept having issues with it. But every time I had issues, I still suspected that it was going to be the switch and not, wiring or the door switch on individual doors, what have you. So I decided to go ahead and get another switch, and I was looking at a lot of them. They're pretty expensive, but I think I found a little trick, which here's the one for the Land Cruiser. And I noticed on some of these, when I cross-referenced part numbers, it also said it fit like an 89 through 96 Camry. So what I found was, if you actually search for an 86 through 89 Camry, you might be able to find it a little bit cheaper. I think there's a little bit of a premium tax that's applied to anything that says Land Cruiser on it. So I was able to get a brand new switch here for $25. And this is, instead of having all the mechanical contacts in it and everything, this is actually a more of a logic type setup. The buttons feel a little bit different, but it's working great so far. So let's go into what I brought you here for, which was my shifter down here, and I apologize for it being so dark. See if I can get some light on here. Ah, there we go, perfect. So the problem I had was, originally, after doing the body lift, I couldn't pull this all the way back into low range, which it's in low range now after the modification I made the other night, but it would be way back here, and this boot was interfering with it, or so I thought. So what I did was I took all this off, this plate. So I've already took my console piece off here, which is pretty easy, especially if you have the stock console. You got 4 screws, 2 on each side, and it just kind of lifts up. You got to move your shifter around, kind of work it off there. But so I had the issue where I couldn't pull this all the way back because the boots and everything would prevent it from engaging fully into low range, so it would just pop back into neutral all the time. So I decided to pull it off because I saw online somewhere that someone said they cut it and turned it 180 degrees. Well, that doesn't work with the amount of body lift I have. I did that. Now it's way up here whenever I'm in high range. So now it only wants to be in low, where I didn't have low before. Now with high range being so far forward, I can engage it here. But once I put this guy on, it's just too far forward for that boot and that cutout. So I think what I'm about to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this back off. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to straighten it out and re-weld it straight, because I think that'll give me a full range of motion, because that'll put, low range here and high range up here, not as far forward. So to do that, I've got to take 4 bolts out, which this one snapped off on me, so it's no longer there, and this one. And I apologize for all the wiring. This is these are my fuse boxes for accessories that I set up. And I gotta find some way to insulate those. I had ordered insulated connectors, but for some reason they got lost in the mail, and now I'm arguing with the seller because they show that it's delivered. Those things happen. But after you take those 4 screws out, you got one here, one here, one here, a really hard to get to one down here that I haven't put back in yet, one here, and one there. So once I do that, and I have to take this nut off right here, and this shifter linkage is keyed, and it just slides off the end of that shaft. And then you can tilt this whole plate with the shifter and everything on it back, and that's going to give you access to the down inside, which this shifter does not go directly into the transfer case. What it does is it mounts right on top of the transmission, and then there's an additional linkage that runs through here that goes back to your transfer case. So next video here in a second should be me taking out or showing you what it looks like down inside. Alright, since I've done that before, it was pretty easy to get off. I didn't have that one bolt in the very back that I showed you. That one was a little hard to get to. I had to get in there with a small wrench and just crank on it forever. I don't even know if I'm going to put that one back in. Everything's sealed up under there. There's a big gasket underneath, and that one's so far back that I don't really see it necessary. Usually I don't like to skip out on stuff like that, but there's really not a lot going on with this plate. It doesn't have any, leverage on it besides, if you pull on the shifter really hard, maybe, but it moves smooth. There's no reason to have, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts in the thing. So with that one broken, I'll be down to 8. Use your best judgment. Also, I forgot to point out earlier, all of these that go around through that plate are 10 millimeters, and then your linkage nut that goes here, that's a 17. So just so your tools are ready. And then down here, you've got 4 12 millimeters that actually hold your shifter on, and then you've got a pin over here that is one of those ones that go through and then it hooks over the top, so you got to pry that piece open and slide it out. But I just get in there with a small screwdriver, and it's, you got enough room to work up here with some small tools, and you can get in behind that pretty easy. So I think I might be able to, since I just had it off, I might even be able to get it. Yeah, I was able to pry that off with just my fingers. So that's what it looks like right there. And you just got to pry this piece up, because this piece goes right through that shaft. And then, so yeah, there's a couple of there's a washer and a bushing on there. So you just take those off. I think got the washer like this. And then you should be able to just, that comes right off there. Drop it out of the way. Take these 4 bolts out here, and you should be able to remove the entire shifter. So next video will be that. So once you get those 4 bolts out of there, that will just lift out. You can kind of angle it so it's in that cutout there. And bolt up here where I won't lose it. It's my last one. All right. So that's your shifter. As I said, it doesn't go into the transfer case. It actually just bolts right up on top of the transmission. So this is your boot here, and it just kind of goes into a groove around the metal, and then it sits over down about right here on this shaft. So it's a little bit hard to pry off. It kind of looked like it was going to tear on me, but it didn't, and that's just because of the age of the vehicle. Again, this is a 91 with a 3FE, so your mileage may vary based on how new your vehicle is and if parts have been replaced, all that. A little tough to get off the first time. It was a lot easier the second time. Okay, looking at this shifter, this was almost exactly the opposite angle. Remember when you're doing this that your linkage here is on the right side, passenger side of the vehicle, and this angle I reversed. So I cut it and re-welded it where it is now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut it right here about 3/4 of the way across. I'm going to bend it so that I get an additional little bit of height on it. I'm going to re-weld it there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to record that because I'm going to be busy during that, and I'm going to put it back together, and then I'm just going to see and hope that that's the right angle. If not, I'm gonna have to figure something else out, because you know, with the about 1.25 inch, 1.5 body lift that I have, I just haven't been able to gauge both high and low. So wish me luck. Alright, here's the finished product. Again, it doesn't have to look real pretty because it's going to be down inside of a boot, but basically I just did a cut, like I said, about 3/4 of the way through, straightened it out. It's not perfect, it's close enough. And then I just welded from the bend a few passes until I filled in the gap with material. Everything's smooth. I cleaned off some of the slag down here. I'll probably blow it out before I put it back in, but I knocked most of the slag loose. I am using a flux core, so you know, there's a lot of slag and stuff that gets thrown off. I just shot a little bit of water around. You can see there's like a little bushing down here, but I didn't want it to get too hot, or the rubber here, so I tried to cool off those areas real quick, as quickly as possible, so nothing would melt. Because when you do that big of a weld, it's obviously going to put a lot of heat into it. But yeah, almost straight up and down, so I can't wait to get in there and see if I'm at the right angle now. Got everything put back together, and it looks like it did the trick. So if you do a body lift that's, you know, over 1 inch, I would say, what you want to do is you want to take the bend out of your transfer case shifter. So this is high range, and as you can see, driving no problem. We'll and low range. Shifts a lot faster, so you can definitely tell it's in low range. Alright, so if any questions, just comment below, but pretty straightforward. Just getting in there, and you know, that last bolt that was way back here is the hardest one. So pretty easy job otherwise.